Hey, Facebook. Nice to see everybody here. Just going to give a moment to let the stream get going before we dive into things. So yes, it is nice to see you all here. Welcome to my post or my Facebook Live. So like I said, I'm just gonna wait a moment for people to get on board and get things ready to go, and then we'll dive into it. So if you have your bass, or you don't have your bass, I would recommend getting it, because we'll do a little bit of playing back and forth together. But yes, Happy New Year, and if you haven't done one of these streams before, or if you haven't checked into one of these streams before, it's been a while since I've done it. Definitely say hello. Let me know where you're commenting from. See a few familiar faces popping in. Hey Brady, hey Emily, nice to see you both. So yeah, just say hey. Let me know where you're tuning in from today, and I will simultaneously man the comments. All right, got some more people coming in. So yeah, say hey. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And I would say go get your bass. We're going to do a little bit of back and forth. Not a long session, about 25 minutes, but grab your bass if you have it. We'll give about 2 more minutes before we get started. Stephen Parisi, hello. Jim Martin, some really great familiar faces. Nice to see all of you. The stream is coming through a little bit slower. The comments are coming a bit slow, so pardon me for taking just a little bit of time. Yeah, so Happy New Year again. Nice to see so many wonderful familiar people here. I love this. What a great community of people. We've got Lachlan and Mitch, Todd, Daniel. So we literally have people from all over the world, from Texas, Massachusetts, Basel, Switzerland. I'm live streaming from Vienna. And yeah, I love this. I love connecting with everybody this way. Such a treat. So again, we're going to start in just 1 minute. Grab your bass if you have it handy. If you don't, still got 60 seconds. You can go and grab it, or you can just sing along with what we're doing. Again, we're going to do talk a little bit about my book, give you some techniques that you can practice before our next session, and hopefully, solve some things that are pretty common that bass players have to deal with. So, Chad's tuning in. The teacher is trying to sneak in some of this class. I love this. Chad, it's great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So another 30 seconds and then we'll hit it, okay? Like I said, if you haven't said hey yet, just let me know where you're tuning in from. Got a nice audience of people, 27 people. This is great. Stefan, nice to see you too. Okay, so let's hit it. So today I'm going to be sharing some tips and practical bass, just tips, tricks in general from my new book. It says Topics in Jazz Bass Volume 2 Soloing. This is going to be released on January 25th. So in just a few weeks, And I'm going to be also sharing things from a supplemental PDF that I created. So I put a link in the description. It's dannyzeman.com slash FB Live worksheet. So I've got a 4-page supplemental sheet that's actually straight from the book. So if you want to download that, you can follow along from home. So one of the things that I am really interested in talking about is why bass players should be concerned with being great soloists. And this is something that's really exciting for me to talk about because it's really taboo. It's not really something that bass players talk about so openly, like working on solos and developing a great solo voice. I've heard frequently throughout my entire life, if I wanted to be a soloist, if I wanted to take solos, I'd learn to play the guitar. And I am here to offer a different perspective on why bass players should be great soloists. The number one reason is that it's actually expected of us, especially in a jazz setting. Everyone else expects us to be able to play great solos. They don't make accommodations for us just because we're bass players. That doesn't happen. So we're expected to be able to step up and contribute on the level of our bandmates. Number two, it's actually not true that it's not our job. If you listen back to recorded history, and it's not just jazz music, but in classical music, in early blues, R&B, funk, bass players are expected to take solos, and most of the great bass players can take great solos. They don't do it all the time, but they have the ability to do it. And it's something that definitely informs their concept when they're playing grooves, because most importantly, being a great soloist makes us a better accompanist. In other words, how can I know what other people are doing, or how can I support other people if I don't know what they're doing? How can I be a supportive accompanist if I can't actually hear and recognize what the people in my group are doing? So that actually puts up a big block from us being better supportive accompanists. So being a great soloist as a bass player is not just about being able to step in the spotlight when called upon. I mean, it's great to be able to do that, but it's to elevate everyone else in the band and have a deeper understanding and appreciation for what they're doing. So again, it's not about serving us, it's about serving the music. So that's why I'm really excited to be able to share my thoughts about how to bridge the gap between being a great accompanist and a great soloist, because it is difficult. It's not talked about too often, and there are certain things that bass players have to deal with that are unlike any other instrument. So today we're going to talk about better connecting the role of being a walking accompanying bass player, being a soloist, and some of maybe the common pitfalls or the common, not even traps, but just some of the things that come up when we're trying to bridge the gap. Maybe things we're not so aware of that you can immediately address in your playing and then start practicing on it, or practicing with it. So before I actually dive into that, I just want to do some interaction. And this is something that's really fun for me because I don't get to hear you play, but I'm going to try and create an interactive element anyways. So if you have your bass, get it ready to go. If you don't have your bass, you can sing along with what we're doing. And if you are in a position where you're not able to sing, I want you to try and hum the notes in your head. Really try to imagine what I'm playing, what it would be like on your instrument. Do the air bass. And be as musical as you can, even if you don't have the instrument. So what we're going to do is just call and repeat. I'm going to play some lines for you, simple lines. Why don't you just play them back to me? I would encourage you to do it by listening and not by watching my hands. See what you can get just by ear. Now I'm going to do some call and response. So I'm going to play something. I want you to just play a phrase that feels like it could respond to what I'm doing or feels like it might fit. It could be anything. No judgment. Just go for it. We'll end it there. So if you went for it, thank you for diving in. If you were singing at home, hopefully you found a way to still interact and imagine what the bass was like in your hands. But I love these types of exercises where it's just based on what we hear, because I think our ears are our most important asset, and our ears will always guide our choices better than anything else. So if this was uncomfortable, great. If this felt familiar, even better. Keep on digging into it. Love this stuff. So one of the things that I wanted to share today, and we'll just kind of touch on this, because again, I dive deep into my book on this topic, Topics in Jazz Bass, Volume 2, which is out January 25th. I want you to just imagine, and you can actually write this in the comments. When you think of a great bass line, what adjectives would you use to describe it? And just keep it simple. When you think of a great bass line, let's say a great walking bass line, what adjectives would you use to describe a great bass line? I'll give you just a moment to check in, write some comments. There's a little bit of a delay. So, yeah, anything that comes to mind. And I'll save my comments until after I read a few of these. Saying logical, musical, rhythmic, keeps the groove. Yeah. Supportive. Yeah. Story, totally, tells a story. I'll wait a moment just for any other comments that come up. Groove, interactive. Yeah, totally. Clarity. Oh, that's my key word. Todd, grounding. Exactly. These are all great adjectives. You're all totally nailing it. Sense of clarity. There's a sense of being grounded. There's a groove. It feels good. It's interactive, meaning it relates to what everyone else in the group is doing. Keeps the groove. Supportive. So all of these adjectives describe this sense of community, listening, clarity, and sort of rhythmic excitement and connectivity. Now, let's flip gears, or change gears. What do you think of when you think of a really great solo? What adjectives would you describe a really great solo with? So I'll give you just another 30 seconds to write down some comments. Adjectives to describe a great solo. I'll just wait for some comments to come through. Rhythmic and melodic. Yes. Emily says raises the energy. Absolutely. Any other adjectives that come to mind to describe a great solo? Zeman-esque. Jim Martin is the master of flattery. Singing. Nice vocal quality. Yeah. Interactive. This is great. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got rhythmic and melodic, energetic, singing vocal-like quality, interactive. So just take a second and think about the way that you described a great bass line and the way that we described a great solo. It's the same adjectives. In my mind, a great bass line expresses really clear harmony, so the note choices are crystal clear. You're playing in a supportive way, interactive. The groove is really clear. Play with a great sound, great sense of phrasing, obviously a great clear sense of time. And when you're playing a solo, you're also playing the harmony with a lot of clarity. You're playing with a great sense of rhythm. You're playing with the sense of interaction. There's a great energy. It's related to the tune. So conceptually, a solo and a bass line are far more similar than they are different. And yet, it's so easy to get trapped in the same common pitfalls when it comes time to play a bass solo. So often I've seen it working with my students where bass lines are clear, but when it goes to soloing, it feels like a completely different thing. Like it's not so easily related. And what I'm trying to do is bridge the gap between the two. So again, bass lines and solos are far more similar than they are different. Now, I'm going to demonstrate something that I call crawling, walking, and then running. And if any of you saw my workshop in the summertime, which this past summer, I dove into this concept quite a bit. And the idea is that when we walk, we outline the same chords and guide tones when we play two, and then when we walk, and then when we solo. It's the same information. So what I'm going to do is play an excerpt from my book. This is just based on a 12-bar blues. And all I do, again, by the way, this is from a supplemental PDF. If you haven't gotten it, I think I put the link in the video description here, but it's just dannyzeman.com/FB Live worksheets. So this is an example from Crawl, Walk, Run. It's just a blues. And all I do is I play a two feel, I play a walking line, and I play a little solo that I wrote that all use the same kind of core guide tones. So it's the same harmonic information happening in the same spots. So do it nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. nice simple B flat blues. And again, I'm using the same harmonic information. I'm putting the guide tones in the same spots. I mean, literally, you can go through and you can circle where all the guide tones line up. It's all in the same spot from top to bottom. So what's the difference between the bass line and the solo? It's kind of obvious. The rhythm. And that's what tends to trip up bass players quite a lot, is getting out of what I call bassline paralysis and having the rhythmic freedom to play solos that are melodic, still grooving, but don't have that downbeat oriented feel that bass lines do. And that's the biggest trip up. The most common thing that I hear with bass players who are learning to solo is that their solos start on beat 1, usually with quarter notes and eighth notes, and it's got this very and so on. You hear that really not so, it's not that it wasn't swinging, but it was just, the groove was sort of backwards. It was really downbeat oriented. And so where bass players get tripped up is the rhythmic change from walking to soloing. And again, that's what I call the bassline paralysis. So while the role of a bassline and a solo are very similar, what we want to think about is playing with the same clarity as we do when we're playing bass lines. Play with the same harmonic clarity, that same great sound, that same feeling of strong time, but we want to vary the rhythm. So we're not starting on all downbeats. Now on the second page of the third page of the handout rather, I talk about rhythmic developing and pacing. So often what happens when we're developing solos is if we get away from quarter notes, we tend to go down to the quarter note, eighth note, 16th note path. And that is about as rhythmically diverse as the drum intro from Wipeout. So no offense to the Surfaris, but it doesn't really create an exciting rhythmic feeling. It's also really hard to go from quarter notes to eighth notes to 16th notes and then have to pull back the momentum. Really difficult. So what I encourage my students to do is work on even basic scales using varied triplet rhythms. Triplets are really intuitive for bass players. They're comfortable, and they create that rhythmic feeling and that rhythmic movement that really breaks away from the feeling of a bass line, because everything we're doing is quarter note driven. With the triplets, you can get lots of really exciting rhythmic opportunities, but it's just more open, more, I hate to say rhythmically diverse, but it is. It's also good for us intellectually because it also makes us feel like we're not playing bass lines, at least rhythmically. So what I do, and this is again on the last page of the document, the PDF, I practice my scales using different triplet patterns. So this is what's called the Bebop Scale, or you can think of it as the diminished sixth scale, like Barry Harris calls it. So this is figure 5.20 from the book. And again, there are 140 supplemental recordings that go along with this book. So anything I play, or anything that you're like, oh, what was that? How can I hear that again? It's all available with the book. So, for example, here's the diminished sixth scale, or just a bebop scale, using a triplet feel. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you heard I was playing ba da 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 da. So playing off of the downbeat, and in this case, you know, it feels different than what we do when we walk because, you know, we're not necessarily playing that kind of rhythmic activity. But if we're playing a blues, I'll just improvise something right now that digs into this just a touch, using the same guide tones. So let's say I'm playing a chorus of Walking over a B-flat blues. So there's one. So just some triplet ideas. And it's, again, following a similar shape to what I play when I'm walking. But it's easy. It creates a rhythmic variety that's really exciting for bass players. And again, Amazon guys here. So it creates excitement and rhythmic diversity. It's easy technically, and it still feels good. It still grooves, but it's for us to take that next step after we bridge the gap between walking and soloing, viewing the solo as an extension of what we can already do when we're walking. Those triplets are a way to sort of break away from that downbeat paralysis that we really have to deal with that we really deal with as bass players. It's a very real thing, and get us thinking about different rhythmic opportunities. So again, this is all available in the supplemental PDF that I put the link for in the video description. And these are all excerpts from my new book, Topics in Jazz Bass, Volume 2, Soloing. It's coming out January 25th. I'll be doing a few more of these Facebook Live sessions. And I definitely encourage you to sign up for my email list if you haven't, because I've got some other really, really exciting things to share about the book launch. But I can't say yet. You'll find out about it soon. But if you want to get more free, exclusive content, I'm giving away, you know, my best advice to just really bridge the gap between walking and soloing, and to really elevate what bass players are able to do. Again, it is our job to solo. There's nothing wrong with embracing it, and it's only going to improve what we do. Improve the band, and really get the community excited about soloing as well. So thank you, everybody. I have to run and actually teach a bass class now online, but I hope you enjoyed. I hope to see you the next time. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email. Again, it's available through my website, dannyzeman.com. Just send me a note there. Happy to chat and meet you all. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.